In this video, we're going to be looking at the setup of a camera on a HiPod and then also all of the equipment that goes with it. First things first, the day before your shoot, you're going to want to make sure all your batteries are charged. Now we have three main different batteries that we use. From left to right here, we got the monitor batteries for the screen, we have the motorized head, and we also have the external battery that we use for the camera. For the monitor batteries, you charge them using this wall mount here. One thing to note is that it has a removable attachment there. So if your battery doesn't fit, take a look for that plate that I'm just putting on there. So you want to slide your battery on and then attach it to the wall socket. Now you can put it on one of two ways. If you put it on like this, it's going to sag a little bit. So it's best to put it on upside down. You should have a couple of these batteries in your kit, and I have had them run out during a shoot, so it's best to make sure that all of them are charged. Next up is the motorized head. Now this has a rechargeable battery in it, and you can see it in the back panel there. Now you don't need to mess around with the battery itself, but in order to charge it, you'll need a cable. And for that you'll use a USB-C cable, like this one, and also a wall adapter. This battery will last you quite a while on a full charge, but it is recommended that you make sure it's fully charged if you're going to be filming all day. And you'll know it's charging if these lights start blinking. Now, there's 4 of them, and if all 4 are on, that means it's fully charged, 100%. Lastly, we have the external battery used to power the camera. And this is one that you'll want to make sure is always charged. You'll need it for every shoot that you do. Keep in mind that your external battery might be different than this one. To charge this particular model, you'll need a micro USB cable, which is the smallest port on the side of the battery. You're not going to want to use the standard USB ports that you can see on the left side there, because that's what you use to actually power the camera once you're out in the field. And you'll know once it's charging when you see a number with the last digit blinking like this. In this case, it's 57% charged. Now this battery does last you a long time, but it's just a good habit to make sure that you top off your batteries after each shoot. Now let's go over actually setting up the equipment. You're going to want to bring your tripod, the camera case, and then the small tripod for your monitor. And those 3 things should have all of the video equipment that you need to do this. But besides those, you can bring whatever you need to make it through the long day. You're probably not going to get too much shade throughout the day, so it's good to bring a chair, a cooler with plenty of drinks in it, anything that you might need for that. Now for the HiPod, what you'll want to do for this particular model is to unscrew the 2 contact points at the bottom of the pole so that you can fan out the legs. For something that goes so high up into the air, it's especially important to make sure that the legs are out as far as they can be for the maximum amount of stabilization, and also to make sure that both of those handles get screwed back in. You don't want that pole going down into the ground. Next up, you can set up your small tripod, and this is just a normal tripod that would be set up for a typical camera. But here you're going to be using it for the monitor so that you have a screen to look at when the camera is all the way up in the air. Now we can start getting the camera components out. First off, you'll want to take out the motorized head, and you'll be able to twist that onto the top of your HiPod. Now it's time to get out the camera itself. Now first things first, you'll want to use the switch on the side to open up the lens cover, and then close it again once you're ready to pack it up. To attach it onto the motorized head, you're going to go ahead and unscrew the boot to the motorized head, which is that little plate right there. You'll go ahead and screw that plate onto the camera. Once that's attached, you can go ahead and slide it onto the motorized head and then screw the side back on so that it's nice and tight. And do make sure that the motorized head buttons right there on the front are facing the same direction that the camera is pointing. This would also be a good time to actually turn on your motorized head. That's one easy thing to forget. Now we'll go ahead and attach our long cables, which should be one group of cables that are tied together by a clip. First off, you'll go ahead and fasten the clip onto the topmost part of the high pod, whatever point that you can clip it onto that works for your particular model. Now that we've got that done, we'll go ahead and attach our external battery. Your internal battery for the camera is not going to last you at all, so you definitely need this. So you'll take out the battery itself and then the USB cable that should be in the bag with it. You go ahead and turn it on and then fasten it in the bag, and then you'll put that into the clip. So that way, once you actually raise this camera up into the air, the battery will be positioned right underneath it. You'll go ahead and feed this cable through the hand strap, and you'll plug it into the cable at the back of the camera that's just kind of permanently fastened on there. And once the camera starts getting powered by the external battery, you should be able to see that orange light on there. You'll want to make sure that the battery is actually charging the camera, and you can make sure of that by looking at the screen of the camera. If you see that battery icon in the upper right hand corner, that means it's not charging. So you'll want to make sure to plug everything in until it disappears. Now we're going to actually plug in the cables that we fastened with the clip. First we're going to pull it under the hand strap, and then we're going to plug in the micro HDMI cable, which is located next to the micro SD card slot. And then next on the right side of the camera we have the camera remote cable, which is a micro USB. Now the reason we feed all the cables through the hand strap is to relieve that downward pressure on the cables. They're very long cables, and the end of them and the contact points are small, so they can get bent, so make sure to feed them through the strap. Here's the completed setup with everything that'll be on the high pod when you raise it up into the air. Now, again, you want to make sure that everything is fastened in a way that is very secure when you actually extend the pole. And you can check that real quick just by raising it up to make sure that everything's clipped where it needs to be. But we're not going to raise it up into the air just yet. There are a couple settings on your camera that you want to make sure about. The first thing is to go to the menu and then to Setup and then to Format. This will clear out all of the videos that were on the SD card before so that you have plenty of room for your shoot. Now, of course, you'll only want to do this once, or else you'll start deleting your footage that you shot that same day before you can even upload it. And since you delete your SD card every shoot that you do, you should definitely keep a backup of your games for about 2 weeks. Next, you'll go back to the main menu and go over to Image Quality and Size. For that first option there, you want to make sure that you're on the highest quality. And it should already be there, but if it's not, switch it to it. Now we're going to set up our monitor, so you'll want to get the boot off of the small tripod that you set up earlier, and then get your monitor and one battery out of the kit. You'll go ahead and screw the boot onto the monitor just like you would with the camera and the motorized head. Then you'll go ahead and put on your battery. And once you need to take the battery off, there is a button on the side that you'll press down, and then release the battery. If everything is working right, you should see a red light to the right of the buttons, so you'll go ahead and turn on your power button and it should change to blue. But it doesn't have a signal yet. So we're going to go ahead and plug in the long HDMI cable that we set up earlier. And now it's working. All that's left now is to get the remotes working. So you'll need your camera remote and then your wireless motorized head remote. Now the remote is plugged in with the one long cable that's left from what you set up earlier, and it should show a green light. And once you press the record button at the bottom, the green will change to red. And you'll want to memorize that. Green means stop or standby, and red means record. It's a little counterintuitive, but definitely don't get those two mixed up. This remote also has the zoom in and zoom out, along with a power button in the upper left-hand corner. If your camera turns off for whatever reason, try that first. The zoom in and the zoom out is also pressure sensitive, so get a feel for that. And now we have the motorized head remote, and that'll allow you to tilt the camera up and down and then pan left and right. If you're on a shoot with multiple videographers and they're using motorized heads, you'll definitely want to change the channel to make sure that you're not accidentally controlling each other's. So you'll go ahead and press and hold the lower left-hand button and then the plus and the minus buttons to change the channel. And then on the actual motorized head, you need to do that also, which is kind of similar. You press and hold that button, and then once it allows you to do it, you can change the channel to where you need it to be. And after that change is made, always make sure to test it to make sure that it's working before you actually raise up the iPod. You can also change the tilt and pan speed using that same button if you just press it rather than holding it. Now that we're sure that everything is working, we can actually raise up the iPod. For this particular model, you'll loosen up each section and then raise it up. And once you get to the end, it'll stop you and you can go ahead and lower it about a foot or so, just for that added stability. During this step, it's really easy to get your cables tied up on stuff and caught, so make sure that you keep an eye on them as you're raising the iPod. Now we've got it about as high as we need it to go, and you'll notice that I'm unscrewing the last handle here and not raising it up, and I'll tell you why in a second. So this is what it'll look like once you're actually shooting. You'll be looking at the monitor and you'll be using both your remotes. And you'll also be twisting the pole every once in a while. And the reason you're doing that is because sometimes the motorized head can't pan from left to right fast enough. Here's about as fast as it can pan left to right with the motorized head, even on its fastest setting. So if a play is going really fast or if you're following a pass, it's just not going to be fast enough. In these situations, you can twist the pole that you've loosened so that you can turn much, much faster. After that, you should be all good to go. While we're at it, we might as well go over rain gear. Now you'll want a gallon Ziploc bag, a small trash bag, and some duct tape or gaff tape. Scotch tape isn't going to cut it. It's not safe to film when there's lightning going off, but if it's just raining, the show must go on. So what you'll do is you'll poke a hole in the corner of the trash bag and you'll drape it over until you get the hole fastened where the lens is. Then you'll take small pieces of your tape and fasten the top and the bottom of the lens. Now you'll need to actually touch the camera part with the tape as well as a lot of the trash bag, just make sure you don't get the tape on the actual glass lens. Taping it down like this will make sure that the trash bag doesn't get in your shot at all. And after you're done doing that, the last thing to do for the camera is to tighten up the back end of the trash bag, kind of like a ponytail, and then tape that up too. And this will make sure that everything is nice and tight and that the bag isn't blowing around in the wind. It's a little messy looking, but it definitely gets the job done and will keep your camera safe from the rain. You'll also want to cover your monitor, and for that you'll use the gallon Ziploc bag. And you'll want to probably break both corners so that it can open up wide enough. Some of these bags have those white printed graphics on them, so make sure that the screen is showing on the clear side of the bag so that it's unobstructed. And there you have it. That's everything that you need to know about setting up a HiPod.